Welcome back to Adorable Skull, the channel that digs up the past and listens for what still lingers beneath. Tonight, we head to a forgotten mining town where silence speaks louder than screams. If you like haunted history, eerie landscapes, and true paranormal legends, subscribe now and join us as we cross into Clinton Creek. Clinton Creek, a ghost town that echoes with absence. Built in 1967 to support a chrysotile asbestos mine operated by Cassiar Asbestos Corporation. At its peak, it housed nearly 500 residents, complete with homes, a school, a post office, and a company-run store. Isolated near the Yukon-Alaska border, it had no traditional road access, only rugged dirt routes and winter ice roads. But in 1978, the mine closed abruptly. People left. Homes were boarded up. The mill fell silent, and nature reclaimed what man had forced upon it. What remained was a perfectly preserved ghost town, with tools still on benches, clothes in closets, and something else that never left. The eerie stillness. Visitors say the first thing you notice at Clinton Creek is the silence, not peaceful, oppressive. Sound seems swallowed. Your voice doesn't echo. Snow doesn't crunch like it should. The world feels like it's watching, waiting. One documentarian described it like walking into a vacuum. Too quiet, like sound was being held back. He set up a parabolic mic to capture ambient noise for a project. But when he reviewed the footage, it wasn't silence that haunted him. It was the low hiss of layered whispers beneath the surface. He slowed the audio, filtered it, and there it was, breathless, indistinct murmuring. Dozens of voices beneath the static. When he returned the next day to collect his mic, it had been moved, slightly, just enough. And his recorder had captured one final chilling phrase: "Why did you come back?" He left immediately, and he never released that footage. Apparitions in the mill. The mill still stands, a rusted skeleton of industry, but inside, it breathes like something alive. Explorers report a tightness in the chest the moment they enter, like the air is too heavy, like the walls remember. Chains swing gently even on still days. Tools clatter when no one is near them. Footsteps echo from above, but the upper walkways have collapsed. One photo, taken by a local hiker, shows a tall, shadowed figure near the sorting platform. Long limbs, obscured face, shoulders too broad to be human. A former worker once revisited the site with his adult son. Halfway through the mill, he stopped cold. He said the scent hit him. Oil, smoke, blood. And then the lights above flickered, though there was no power. "I swear to God," he muttered. "I heard the shift bell ring." But that hasn't sounded since '78. They left without finishing the walkthrough. Shadows in the bunkhouses. The bunkhouses are strangely intact. Drawers still filled, boots neatly lined, plates in the sink. But at night, the shadows grow long, and the stories begin. One photographer couple camped in a cabin for a Yukon-themed shoot. Around 2:14 a.m., the woman awoke, not from a sound, but from pressure. A sensation of being watched, suffocated, as though the air had weight. She turned her head toward the hallway and saw it. A tall silhouette standing still in the frame of the kitchen doorway. No movement, no sound, but its presence was louder than anything. When she grabbed her flashlight, it blinked out. The second time she tried it, the beam worked, but the hall was empty. Only wet boot prints trailed from the entrance to where the figure had stood, and stopped. The worst part, she said later, wasn't seeing it. It was how I felt after, like it had memorized it. Clinton Creek isn't just a ghost town, it's a place that remembers. A town where footsteps return, Voices linger, and shadows fill in where people once stood. It's not the wind that answers when you call out. It's something older, quieter, and closer. Subscribe to Adorable Skull on YouTube for full-length paranormal deep dives, and follow us on TikTok for ghost stories on the go. If you want to help us keep exploring the haunted North, your support is the light we carry into the dark. Welcome to Adorable Skull, where true history meets terrifying hauntings. If you love eerie tales soaked in real history, subscribe and follow us as we travel deep into the Canadian wilderness. Today we take you to Carcross, Yukon, a remote place where beauty hides stories long buried, and some that still walk among us. Carcross, short for Caribou Crossing, is a tiny village tucked between Bennett and Nares Lakes in Yukon. It was once a gold rush stopover in the late 1800s and home to the Tagish and Tlingit First Nations, whose deep spiritual traditions shape the region's identity. Once a hub of steamships, traders, and pioneers, Carcross today seems like a sleepy tourist town, but its past is carved into the soil. Beneath the charm of its heritage buildings and colorful cabins, something lingers, something old. Bessie Gideon and Polly the parrot. In the heart of Carcross stands the Caribou Hotel, a 3-story wooden structure steeped in history and shrouded in mystery. Among its most enduring legends is that of Bessie Gideon, who, alongside her husband Edwin, managed the hotel in the early 1900s. Following Edwin's death in 1925, Bessie continued to run the establishment until her own passing within its walls on October 27, 1933. Since then, guests and staff have reported unexplained phenomena. Doors slamming shut, floorboards creaking under invisible footsteps, and the apparition of a woman gazing out from the third-floor window. Some believe Bessie's spirit remains a vigilant guardian of the hotel she cherished. Adding to the hotel's eerie ambiance is the tale of Polly, a yellow-naped Amazon parrot. Originally owned by Captain James Alexander, Polly was left in the care of the Gideons in 1918, when Alexander perished in the sinking of the SS Princess Sophia. Polly became a fixture at the hotel, known for singing opera tunes, mimicking guests, and even indulging in whiskey. Living to the remarkable age of 125, Polly passed away in 1972 and was buried in the Carcross Cemetery. Visitors have claimed to hear phantom squawks and disembodied voices echoing through the halls, leading some to believe that Polly's spirited presence lingers alongside Bessie's. Montana Mountain. Montana Mountain rises dramatically above Carcross, standing as both a natural wonder and a spiritual stronghold for the Carcross Tagish First Nation. Long before miners carved paths across its slopes during the silver boom of the early 1900s, the mountain was sacred ground. Locals still tell of eerie lights dancing across the upper ridgelines long after dark. These aren't northern lights. They move low, as if carried by hands. Visitors describe overwhelming feelings of being watched, a weight pressing on their chest, especially near the abandoned tram lines. Some hikers report encounters with skywalkers, tall figures robed in shadows, glimpsed between the trees or at the edges of vision, always silent, always out of reach. The wind carries whispers in a language no longer spoken, and sometimes, if you stand still enough, you'll feel something pass through you, like air shifting through a different time. Those who stray off trail often speak of loops in time, paths that bring them back to the same spot again and again, as if the mountain is folding in on itself. Some emerge shaken, some weeping, unable to explain what they saw or what saw them. Spirit Lake, the whisper beneath the water. Located just south of Carcross, Spirit Lake is famed for its swirling emerald green waters and hauntingly beautiful crater-like formations carved by ancient glaciers. Early settlers began calling it Spirit Lake after a string of unexplained disappearances in the 1800s. Trappers, prospectors, and travelers vanished along its shores, often leaving behind only their horses or empty camps. Even today, people speak of a cold presence that radiates from the lake, even on warm days. Hikers report hearing faint humming, soft, melodic, and impossible to trace, that grows louder the closer they get to the shore. Some have spotted a pale woman in white, standing motionless at the edge, her long hair dripping as though she had just emerged from the water. But she never speaks. She just stares at you. And then she vanishes. More disturbing are the stories from those who dared to swim. Several report being pulled downward by unseen hands. One man swore he saw faces in the lake bed staring up at him, mouths open, as if screaming, yet no sound escaped. Others say the water itself sometimes pulses like a heartbeat, and that if you place your hand just below the surface, you'll feel something reach back. Voices of the Old World. Angela Sidney, 1902 to 1991, born in Carcross to a Tagish mother and Tlingit father, was one of the last fluent speakers and storytellers of the Tagish language. Through her work with ethnographers and oral historians, she preserved a vast trove of First Nation stories, some uplifting, others terrifying. She believed stories were not only entertainment, but sacred teachings passed through generations. Angela warned of beings that walked between worlds. The Kushtaka, for example, a shape-shifting otter spirit said to lure people to their deaths with mimicry and charm. Or the Keel, a mountain-dwelling presence that feeds off those who disrespect the land. Some of her stories mention rocks that cry at night, or trails that change their shape to lead travelers astray. She once told of a man who ignored traditional offerings to the forest. He entered the woods and never came out. His sled returned days later, unmanned, the dogs whimpering and frost-covered, but the man was gone. They say on quiet nights, if you leave offerings of tobacco or berries on the trail near Montana Mountain, you can still hear faint drumming in the distance, and Angela's voice softly retelling the story to those who listen. Though Angela Sidney has passed on, many believe she still walks through the spirit realm, protecting the old ways. Her voice woven into the wind, her warnings whispered through the pines. Carcross Desert, dunes of silence. Though only about 1 square mile in size, the Carcross Desert is known as the world's smallest desert. But it isn't truly a desert. It's a dried-up glacial lakebed made of fine silt and sand from ancient times. Once part of Lake Watson, the dunes were formed after the last ice age, sculpted by wind and time. But for the Tagish and Tlingit peoples, this place is not empty. It is a threshold between worlds. Locals whisper of spirits wandering the dunes, drawn to the wind and the silence. One legend tells of a trapper who crossed the sands at twilight and vanished. Days later, his tracks were found circling endlessly, leading nowhere. His voice is still heard on still nights, whispering through the breeze, calling for help, begging for a path home. Some visitors claim to see shapes standing motionless on the ridgelines, only to disappear as they draw closer. Others say the sand moves when it shouldn't, shifting in slow spirals around their feet. Some believe the desert is alive, a spirit itself, watching, listening, remembering. These are the haunted echoes of Carcross, where spirits live in lakes, hotels, and the very mountains. If you enjoyed the stories, give us a like, share the fear, and subscribe to Adorable Skull for more real horror rooted in true places. Until next time, sleep with one eye open. Welcome back to Adorable Skull, where real history meets chilling hauntings. Don't forget to subscribe if you love dark stories rooted in truth. Tonight, we journey north to the hauntingly beautiful waters of Lake Le Berge, a place known for gold rush legends, ghostly ships, vanishing cabins, and shadowy figures that defy explanation. Let's dive into the deep, cold waters of Yukon's paranormal past. The ghost steamer of Lake Le Berge. During the height of the gold rush, riverboats were the lifeline of the Yukon, ferrying miners and goods across Lake Le Berge en route to Dawson City. Over time, many of these stern-wheelers were decommissioned, sunk, or deliberately burned. One of the most iconic ships lost to the lake was the A.J. Goddard, but others vanished without clear records. To this day, multiple locals have reported the same eerie vision, a black, crewless steamboat gliding silently across Lake Le Berge. It appears only on fog-drenched nights, with no lights, no sound, not even the churn of a paddle. It leaves no wake and disappears before it reaches the opposite shore. A fisherman once described, "We were out just before dawn. Fog was thick as soup. Then, we saw this boat, old, black, just drifting. No crew, no engine. We turned the motor off, thinking maybe we were dreaming. Blinked, and it was gone. Like it slipped back into the water itself. Locals say it's always heading in one direction, toward the site where the A.J. Goddard sank. But this vessel isn't the Goddard. It's something older, or something else entirely." The shadow on the highway. The Klondike Highway runs alongside parts of Lake Le Berge, carrying travelers through the heart of Gold Rush territory. It's quiet, isolated, especially after dark. In 2024, a chilling Reddit post described two friends driving late one night near Lake Le Berge. As they rounded a bend, their headlights caught something crossing the road. It was 8 to 10 feet tall, jet black, flat, no shine, no texture, like it absorbed the light around it. It moved fast, but not like a human. No sound, no footprints, just a suffocating silence. And for the rest of the drive, they felt watched, not followed, but as if something massive stood by the road, staring at them as they passed. The vanishing cabin. Several hunting and trapper cabins once stood around Lake Le Berge. Most are now gone or in ruins, but one is different. A couple camping near the lake claimed they saw a cabin illuminated on a distant hill, glowing like candlelight through its windows. They decided to hike there next morning, but found only rocks and overgrown shrubs. No signs of wood, ash, or any structure ever standing there. That night, they returned to their site. Around midnight, shuffling footsteps circled their tent. When they unzipped the flap, nothing. Until they turned around and saw, standing where the cabin had appeared, 3 tall, unmoving figures. The sinking of the A.J., Goddard and the Voice. Across the water. Built in 1898, the A.J. Goddard was a sternwheeler used to transport prospectors and supplies during the Klondike Gold Rush. On October 22, 1901, it sank during a sudden storm on Lake Le Berge. 3 men drowned, and their bodies were never recovered. The wreck was rediscovered in 2008 by divers in near-perfect preservation. Even the tools and boots remained. One summer evening, a ranger on routine patrol stopped at the lake's edge near an old shelter. As night fell, he heard a calm, male voice calling out from the trees. "Come on, Clara. It's not much further." There was no reply. No boat, no lights, just stillness and the ripple of waves. He searched, found no tracks, no signs of anyone. Locals say the name Clara matches the wife of one of the drowned men, a chilling echo across time. The stories of Lake LaBerge blur the line between history and the unexplainable. Whether it's a whisper from a sunken steamer or the silence of a vanishing cabin, something ancient and unseen lingers on these shores. If you enjoyed tonight's haunting journey, subscribe to the adorable Skull YouTube channel and follow us on TikTok for more chilling true stories with a twist of terror. Your support helps keep the shadows alive. Welcome back to Adorable Skull, where the coldest places on Earth hold the darkest secrets. Tonight, we journey to a long-abandoned village in the Yukon, a place so cold it shattered records, bent sound, and birthed whispers no one could explain. If you're drawn to tales where nature turns haunted, subscribe now and join us at the edge of the unknown. Snag, where the air freezes and the voices travel. Snag, Yukon, sits nestled along the White River. In 1947, it became world famous for recording the coldest temperature in North America, minus 63 degrees Celsius, minus 81.4 degrees Fahrenheit. It was once a small village and an airstrip during the war, but today it's all but vanished beneath frost and silence. Yet what happened during that cold snap left more than just scientific records. It left fear. The whispering cold. They said you could hear everything during that cold. Footsteps 2 valleys over, coughs carried through the forest like they were beside you, and voices, conversations, full sentences with no speaker in sight. One night, a telegraph operator at the Snag airstrip stepped outside for a smoke. The cold bit through his parka instantly. That's when he heard it. "We have to leave soon. They're coming. I saw them in the trees." He rushed inside, but no planes had arrived. No footsteps in the snow. Just the frozen stillness of Snag. And he wasn't alone. Over a dozen locals and workers reported disembodied voices echoing through the trees that winter. Science said it was sound refraction, the extreme cold letting noise travel unnaturally far. But those who heard the whispers said otherwise. "It wasn't just hearing them," one man said. "It felt like the voices were in my head." Exploding ice and unseen forces. During that same winter, the nearby White River and its frozen tributaries began to crack and shift with ear-splitting intensity. The ice boomed, not like cracks, but like rifle fire. Locals claimed the snow would shudder and drift off trees as if something massive had passed through. Children refused to sleep alone. People claimed their dogs whined and refused to go near the riverbanks. One old trapper said it best. It was like the land itself was speaking, and it didn't like us there. And then came the shadows. One traveler wrote in his journal in 1952 that while snowshoeing out of Snag, he felt watched. He turned and saw a tall black figure on the trail behind him. Silent, still, no footprints, just there, staring. He turned back, hurried forward, and then glanced once more. It was gone. Drivers passing near the old road leading into Snag have told of rare sightings. Humanoid forms standing eerily close to the tree line. Too still, too symmetrical. In the white glare of high beams, these silhouettes appear for only seconds before fading into the storm. A trucker swore one of them moved. just a slight tilt of the head. He blinked, and the form was gone, leaving behind only churned snow where the shadow had stood. Another saw a cluster of 3, unmoving, just off the embankment. They weren't dressed for winter, just standing there, as if waiting for something to return. Snag may no longer have homes or people, but the cold remembers. The echoes across frozen forests, the shattering ice, and the figures that appear when no one else is around make it one of the North's most unsettling places. If you want more haunted history from real locations, subscribe to Adorable Skull on YouTube and follow us on TikTok for short bites of horror from forgotten corners of the world. Your support helps us bring the spirits back into the light and keeps us from walking into the dark alone. Welcome to Adorable Skull, where haunted history takes form. Subscribe for more chilling tales rooted in real places. Let's begin. Dawson City, a living ghost town. Dawson City, nestled in the Yukon territory, sprang to life during the Klondike gold rush of the late 1890s. Once bustling with prospectors and dreamers, the town's population dwindled as the gold fever subsided. Today, Dawson City stands as a testament to its storied past, with preserved buildings and tales of the supernatural echoing through its streets. The Palace Grand Theater, echoes of the past. Built in 1899 by showman Arizona Charlie Meadows, the Palace Grand Theater was Dawson City's crown jewel, offering entertainment to miners and socialites alike. Over the years, the theater has witnessed countless performances and, allegedly, paranormal occurrences. The theater never truly empties. Long after the curtains fall and the last guest leaves, strange things unfold. Staff whisper about a woman in a crimson dress who floats through the aisles, her feet never quite touching the floor. When approached, she glides behind the heavy red curtain and vanishes into the shadows. Her perfume, faintly rosy, almost antique, lingers in the air long after she's gone. One technician claimed to hear clapping coming from the balcony during a rehearsal. When he looked up, he saw a man in a top hat seated alone, staring intently at the stage. The man slowly tilted his head, not blinking, and then simply faded, as if the dark swallowed him whole. A singer visiting for a historical reenactment performance once froze mid-song, claiming she heard someone humming along in perfect harmony from the empty stage wings. Her microphone picked up the melody. A second voice, recorded but unexplainable. The Westminster Hotel, the Pit of Despair. Established in 1898, the Westminster Hotel, affectionately known as the Pit, has been a staple in Dawson City, offering lodging and libations to locals and travelers. Its storied past includes tales of barroom brawls and untimely deaths. They say the hotel absorbs emotion, rage, sorrow, and loneliness hang like stale smoke in the air. Bartenders speak of glasses moving on their own, especially around 3 a.m. when the bar is nearly empty. Patrons who sit alone sometimes feel a presence settling next to them, the chair creaking under invisible weight. A local once dared to spend a night in room 6, where a miner reportedly drank himself into oblivion after losing his claim. He awoke to find muddy boot prints on the ceiling above his bed and the unmistakable sound of pickaxes tapping within the walls. The air turned thick, impossible to breathe. Most chilling is the man in the fedora. He appears only in reflections, bathroom mirrors, the glass of a whiskey bottle. Always behind you, always staring. He never moves, but his eyes follow, boring into your back until you turn and find nothing. Robert Service Cabin. Whispered Words. From 1909 to 1912, poet Robert Service resided in a modest cabin in Dawson City, known as the Bard of the Yukon. Service penned many of his famous works here, capturing the spirit of the North. The cabin stands frozen in time. Many enter to appreciate its historic charm, but some leave unsettled. There are whispers in the wood, actual lines from Service's poems, murmured by a voice that sounds too old and too cold to be a tour guide. More than one visitor has heard the clack of a typewriter only to find it still, dust covering its keys. One winter evening, a local teacher brought her class to see the cabin. As she spoke about Service's work, her students went silent, staring at the desk. The old chair had begun to rock, gently, rhythmically, and the paper in the typewriter was slowly curling inward, as if something had just typed the final period. Late at night, those brave enough to return say the cabin glows faintly from within, not electric light, but the sickly glow of candlelight. If you approach, you might hear a voice reading a poem you've never heard before. When you look inside, there's no one, just the lingering smell of ink and kerosene. These are the haunted echoes of Dawson City, where spirits live in theaters, hotels, and the very creeks. If you enjoyed the stories, give us a like, share the fear, and subscribe to Adorable Skull for more real horror, rooted in true places. Until next time, sleep with one eye open.